and I'm going to be taking you through a couple of hours of driving around this piece of wonderful wilderness. Well, close to wilderness, not very, but as you can see, we never know what we're going to find, and a lovely family of warthog that are very graciously allowing us to film them. Brian is on camera with me today, and so is a representative for the Thumb. I think it's one of his business people from the city. And of course Alex back in final control. And wonderful summer afternoon. Boy, it's really hot, it's really humid. Time to look at some pigs. We unfortunately have the setting sun, or the late afternoon sun, in our eyes, so it's the lighting isn't great. But this is an interesting scenario. We've got a mama warthog with her 2 piglets that are fairly new. Now, I think we saw 5 of them when they were first born, so she's sadly lost at least 3. Herding them now, the 2 little piglets. And that other young female that's with her is a daughter from probably last year, but I'm guessing that with the tusk size that she has, I'm guessing she's been around for maybe 2 years. Usually there's only 1-year-old females that stay with mom. We'll see where they go. They were in a wallow when we first came to see them, and they're now, well, oh, it's hot, cooking in the sun. So she's taken them to some shade, but there are some little mud pools around here that she might take them to. We can see that she's an old veteran, this old girl. She's not really worried about the vehicle at all. It's her daughter that is the nervous one. The other young piglet, it's got some strange, I've noticed it earlier. She got a deformed tooth or what? No, they're just her muddy whiskers. That's all it is. Creep up on them. Scott and Vim are heading out as well. We're going to see what they might pick up this afternoon, so we'll be switching over between the 2 vehicles and hopefully bringing you the best we can from this corner of the Sabi Sand. That little girl is nervous, but she should have had some piglets of her own by now. King air flying overhead. Or a 404. The 404. Little twin engine plane going from one side of the world to another. East to west, maybe out of Mozambique. Not likely out of Kruger though. There's someone up in the Timbavati that flies a twin like that. And this could be on a trajectory after they've taken off, because his airstrip is a north-south airstrip. Would be in a trajectory for him to turn around and start flying over this way. Heading west back to the city. You can see the little ones aren't really interested in grazing or feeding much. They're picking here and there. They're still quite dependent on milk. Not too sure how long they are dependent on milk. A few months at least, 3 or 4 months. You can see Mum walking at the back here. Has a really impressive pair of tusks for a mama warthog. And the female warthogs, their tusks tend to curve a lot more deeper, a lot sharper than the big boars. The boars have a much wider spread to their tusks. And since they do so much digging and fighting, their tusks are often stumps or stubs from being worn down or being broken after fighting. Today is super hot. Today is one of those days that I think it's the humidity that's increased. I'll leave the piglets to find some shade. They have found some shade and you'll leave them in peace for a bit. Now after it cleared up from this morning, it's become the epitome of summer. Beautiful cloud. There were big storms further to the north earlier. Thought they might come this way, but they dissipated and somehow are now very, very far to the northwest. I guess just a sudden change in wind direction blew all of that away and opened up the sky. Looked like it was going to be a little bit wet this afternoon. Okay. We're heading towards the gate. We're still on Vuatela driveway. We're heading sort of a little bit northwest. There are a bunch of mud wallows here. There's been a lot of elephant activity, a lot of elephant movement on pathways that come from, I suppose, Arathusa, come Triple M, Elephant Plains, Sumbambili, that area. Crossing through this corner of Djuma going up into Buffelshoek. Actually a lot more elephant in fact than we get crossing through the rest. And there's elephant crossing now. I love it when a plan comes together, because I'm just thinking we've got to, at some point, with the amount of elephant that crossed on these pathways, and we're going to see it, it's going to be quick. So get ready, because they're going to cross the road and then they're going to be gone, because like, this is really thick to follow them in here. Jump over, little one. I'm stopped. You can come out. We can see a very distinct and very clear, well-defined pathway. Well, I don't know. I had to stop, and I know you probably can't see her yet. Him, her. Who are we? Come, little one. Come and say hello. Yes. Hello, little one. That means the family is here somewhere close. He's choosing to go behind us, which is probably a good call. His mother's taught him well. That's the safety thing. Because he doesn't know that maybe he's going to spook us, which will chase us almost into him. So I'm guessing that he is one of these teenagers that's at the back of the herd, and the herd has already maybe crossed the road. This is how young bulls tend to get their independence, is that they're on their own, but they're still close enough to the herd, and they still keep them really, really close contact with the herd. And I'm guessing that they've all crossed and that he's trying to catch up with them. But now, to show you, this is he sort of went off the pathway a little bit, but here it goes through here. There are hippo tracks and antelope tracks. No real fresh elephant tracks here though, so he goes through there. I'd love to try and follow him, but it's really dense vegetation, and being a young bull on his own, he's going to be very frightened, and it's just going to chase him. It's just going to force him to try and run fast. There are two options. I think we can maybe try and get down to this path and all of the others. There's another one, in fact, with some LA tracks on it. They're all leading, they're all narrowly angled towards each other, and they all end up, strangely enough, at a dam here on Buffelshoek. We can maybe touch on the boundary where we can see the dam. But first, I just want to have a look down the road to see if there are any big herds crossing Triple M. I said it was going to be quick because that's unfortunately how it goes at the moment. There's a bottleneck here that the elephants try and get through. To get through to Manyaleti. Manyaleti is actually a much more peaceful place for them than here, to a certain extent. Not entirely, but to a certain extent. What I mean is that there are vast areas of Manyaleti that they don't have roads, they don't have the kind of network or the kind of pressure that elephants might feel here by vehicles. And en route into Kruger, it's almost like, I guess, not quite a sanctuary, but it's an area where they pretty much left alone. Not to say that they're not here in the Sabi Sand, because there are still areas here in the Sabi Sand where south roads or east-west roads in what we might term a block, and a block can be any shape and any size. Sometimes elephants can get lost in these blocks for days and not be seen by vehicles, because some of these blocks are very, very large. But there is some reason, and it would be nice to see a European roller that's landing conveniently in the sunlight for us, with a red bull flying behind it. A sky blue bird against a blue sky. Something biting you.
Yeah.
I think that's a shepherd's tree of not really sure, but could be. Maybe a Martinez. Not really sure. It's an interesting tree. There are actually some flowers starting to develop on some of the lower branches. I'm not recognizing, but are you looking at roller?
Yeah.
Every now and then just catch some of the color on his wings reflecting the light. Might look like just a pale blue, but it's actually quite shiny and luminous. Well, it's just really amazing colors. There's nothing really happening to Sydney's dam. We can't get to the dam, but we can see it from the common boundary that Juma has with Buffelshoek. Hot afternoon equals elephants equals water. No, I suppose the end thing is the equals, so it's Hot afternoon plus elephants plus water equals swimming. Didn't quite get the name. Vaughan, maybe. Saying it's so hot that even the birds are panting. Oh, Paul. Sure. I'm only getting about 3 out of 5 at the moment. But thanks, Paul. Paul sent a tweet. It is one of those days when even the birds are panting, because it's the only way that birds can also help regulate their body temperature. Quite an important process for birds, maybe as much as it is for the dogs and cats, since they don't really have sweat glands like we do. Panting, the moisture in the mouth, and that does help cool them down. It's remarkable how different animals actually have different methods of thermoregulation. I'm going to sneak past to the HQ. This is the gate. We've got some of the border stuff going on here, but it's just a bit of a shortcut because I want to see what's happening with Ellie's. Oh, is that a Mgiba? No, it's not. Sorry, we backtracked a little bit. Gave this elephant to get in on his way down to the big dam, and I'm hoping that he did get there. There is an elephant actually heading away from them. Might be this little boy actually. That is got a buffalo there. Maybe the whole herd is, maybe they're all going to be heading towards, yep, some there, so maybe take the shortcut down one of these elephant paths. This is one of them. Hippo and elephant. I think it's mostly maybe hippo that make these paths sometimes. The hippo and other antelope and bulls use, and eventually you get the leopard in them as well, because it's quiet, thorns. Going to cross the heading straight down to Gary. I think maybe at least not in a hurry to get to the water. Lovely buffalo and hippo. Got his live. Okay, thanks. I knew we might lose you there just briefly, but I can't go on to. We're going to watch from a distance as he runs towards the water. This is a beautiful view. He's also running towards a big group of buffalo that are sleeping in the water, and I think he's only noticing them now. So calculating the odds. Oh, now he's getting. Oh, look! What he's going to try and get that. All of those buffalo bulls moving right past. I think it's just trying to catch up with the herd, and the herd might already have gone up that way. I think he was trying to impress the buffalo, but he ended up chickening out because there's got to be more than a... Oh, now he's still heading towards them. So it's calmed down considerably. Maybe not. Still running a bit. You can see the buck looking at him.
Slow.
Yeah.
They're not too bothered.
No. They got numbers. The rate that, at the speed that he's walking, that is the same sort of pace that some of the herds take when they also want to get north. And there's a, for whatever reason it is that they want to get north, maybe it's a change of diet, a change of scenery. Well, change of scenery is a change of vegetation, which is a change of diet. Maybe they're dying to get up into the Mopani veld. But you can see that he's covered an enormous amount of ground. He must have covered at least a mile maybe since we first saw him. And although it's not really that fast because they can move a lot faster, he's not really running. He's just occasionally walking fast. But his direction hasn't wavered from the moment we saw him coming onto Vuetela Access Road. If I had to draw a line on a Google map or something, I would be... Well, I can show you if I could find a map. Don't have a hard copy with me. He's on a beeline. He's heading straight for something. And my guess is it's his family, his mom and sisters and brothers. And he lagged a little bit too far behind and now he's trying to catch up. Didn't even stop at the dam, not even for a drink. Just a youngster, maybe 20, if that. Wow, what a way to start an afternoon. Wow, what a way to start an afternoon. A lot of people sometimes ask the question, where have all the elephants gone? And they want to remind you of a moment. Well, sometimes they just have to be somewhere else. And they have a time limit to get there. They can be in a hurry sometimes, and that can cause early evacuation of the area. Maybe we should see what Scott's up to. Scott and Liam. No, they were somewhere behind us. I think they were heading up towards Biffles, if I'm not mistaken, Biffles of Cutline and Biffles of Dam, which is why we're heading further to the south. We're going to leave them in the west, or rather, sorry, in the north, going northeast. But we're from the west that we're in now. We're hopefully going to mostly concentrate on going sideways to the sun rather than going into it, so we can make the most of the afternoon light. Can't always do it this way. We did have quite a wonderful morning, in fact, and well, we had a lovely elephant bull. That listening to, yeah. Someone said, a couple of people said that maybe it was Mandela, or Madiba rather, the elephant that Peter and the crew, when they were viewing him quite frequently, almost every day, and they were having some really wonderful moments with that one heli who was coming up right close to them. It might have been the same one. I didn't really get to see him much because I started a couple of days later after Peter and Hayden, and I think he had moved on by then. There might have been one or two moments that I met him, but I've got to compare photos now, because he didn't necessarily behave the same way to me as he did with Peter. If anything, he seems to have become quite accustomed to Peter, or the way Peter approached him, the way Peter drove. It might be the same vehicles, but we do drive them differently, so there is a different noise that comes out of them. The elephants have to get used to that, because to them it tells them everything about our intent. And how we react to them. Some impala lying in the shade, standing in the shade, even two rams that are somehow have got enough energy to spar in the shade. Although it's half-hearted, it's just sort of putting their heads together. Maybe they're thinking up a plot to take over the world. Alright, carry on, boys. You're with them. Carry on. Don't mind us. They're probably thinking, what are these humans doing out there in the hot sun on a hot sunny afternoon in summer? Don't they know that you can stand under a tree and have some shade and it'll be cooler than sitting out in the sun? So they probably think we're crazy and rather idiotic. Very well then, boys. Get the message. Bye. Everything's in the shade this afternoon. Very interesting question. Okay, I was eating a rusk, just taking a quick bite, a little bit peckish. I've got to be careful that I take a bite of my rusk and not a bite of this. Okay, I still want to talk to you about. I had it this morning, and I want to show you something about it shortly. Right now we need to find something maybe related to it. Wait, I tweeted a question, and the question was, how does this young bull, how does he scent his way to find the herd? And it's actually it's a combination of things. Wait, I don't know. if it's Ms., Mrs., Mr., Master. But I'll wait for a reply, perhaps. Get a name, but maybe you want to remain a little bit anonymous. But they're a combination of things that allow an elephant calf, or rather an elephant, irrespective of who it is and what it is, to lag behind the herd and then still follow it, other than scent. But scent is very important, but you've got to remember that the scent of a herd, hello boys, there's a little bit of dominant male wants the shade and he's pushing the other male out of the shade because we arrived. So we've changed the dynamics. So the other male's got to go and find his own shade now. So we're gonna just gonna eat and say, well, I meant to go and eat anyway. Didn't really need the shade. I think one of the main features, or rather the main keys to elephant being able to keep up with the herd and to follow where they've gone is the fact that they're able to communicate audibly with each other and using such low frequencies. The eagle. Okay, follow the eagle for me. And while I'm talking to him, wait. I'll follow it with my binoculars and let's see what it is. Interesting, a little bit of a wedge tail. It's a very small eagle. Missing a few flight feathers. At least 2 primaries on each wing. That's probably, or maybe only 1, but that's probably from striking at its prey and actually damaging the primary so badly that they had to be rejected, and the new ones will be growing. It's not a Wahlberg's, it's a little bit bigger than a Wahlberg's. It's not a brown snake, it's not any of the snake eagles. It does have quite a straight tail when it's not turning. Tail feathers also a little damaged, so this poor child flew into something, maybe when it struck at a prey, or looking a little bit draggled. So that could be not a lesser spotted. I'm not seeing any white. It's not a booted. Could be maybe just a Wahlberg that is spreading its tail a little bit because it needs to turn in the thermal that it's flying in. It's finding a particular thermal. So elephants talk to each other over very large distances using an infrasound, and that allows him to just hear mama's rumbles and just to hear the herd. They also do pick up vibrations through the ground, and there is evidently, and I haven't been able to read much further on it, but there is evidently an ability of theirs to be able to communicate using ground vibrations, I suppose, where it does, or rather where it is possible to do so. And I don't know the distances that they can communicate using vibrations in the ground. I've personally never seen elephants sort of stomping and making a noise like a drumming. Or maybe somewhere they do that. But the other thing is that when you grow up with a herd, as only can happen in such a tight-knit community, a very, very family-oriented unit, you are constantly breathing, smelling, even sometimes tasting the very presence of your family members, and since taste and smell and hearing everything about your senses is so alive with what is safe, which is family, and what is strange, which might be danger, and what is comforting, which is food, everything becomes so indelible, so etched in the memory. that it just takes the herd to walk through anywhere, could be anywhere. For an elephant to be able to just put its trunk on the ground and be able to follow every footprint, every footstep, every nuance of what that entire family did, individual by individual, picking up not only I suppose a homogeneous sort of scent, but more like a combination of all the different scents from all the different individuals in the herd. And so much information is gleaned from what an animal, not only an elephant, but what animals can tell from just the smell of where other animals have put their feet, because so much in the health of the animal is transferred into the scent that is left behind wherever they have walked. The little redback shrike has caught something in this wattle. Oh, she's gone. Oh, Mike in Atlanta. That's better, I prefer. Hello, Mike. Sorry to call you M-Wait. Mike in Atlanta. Atlanta, Georgia. That reminds me, you see how my mind connects to things. I meant to tell you. Where I was talking about someone I know, someone who is closely linked to my past and my direction from that moment that we met, with a chap by the name of Professor Lee Berger, who is, I think he's probably head of the paleoanthropology department at Wits University, or it's now the University of, what's it called?
It's still Wits.
Oh.
Well, okay, University.
Yeah. Well, there's a... Anyways, but Lee... I was talking about Lee and the fossils, the hominid fossils that he had, that had set him on his path to doctorate and postdoctorate work, and what has made him the professor he is today, because he's a real professor. I'm just called that as a nickname. I have no claim to academic records that even put me close, but I'm just very honored by the fact that people do give me that nickname, but I'm not in the same league. Lee is a dedicated professor of paleoanthropology and anthropology. And the weirdest thing happened, and I have to tell you this, is that the day that I was talking about Lee Berger, who I hadn't spoken about on Drive before for quite some time. I think I have mentioned it before years ago. But that very day, a letter arrived in my mailbox in Hoedspruit that was collected by a friend, and that was last week Thursday. Because last week Friday, I think it might have been Friday, when we went to fetch the jigger, a friend of mine was there who, it was pre-arranged because I knew I was going to pick up the jigger, and he brought me my mail because he has my mailbox key and he's been to my house. So I needed an update of what's happening to my house up in the Timbavati. And he gave me this letter, which was from my parents in Iceland. Mom, Dad, if you're watching, I got your letter, but it was so coincidental in a way, in that the letter was an article that my dad sent me about Professor Berger, Lee Berger, and his latest project and what he's involved in now. It was here. I must find it. I actually brought it on Drive 2 days ago because I wanted to show it to you. 4 days ago. Just out of the blue, the very day I was talking about it was the very day it landed in my mailbox. An article on Lee Berger and what he's doing nowadays. Just wanted to throw that out there, and the gee whiz moment. So that was just all brought about because Lee came, I think he came from Atlanta, Georgia. I think he was from university. when he did his masters and then came out to South Africa to do his doctorate and his postdoc work on human origins. And human ancestry. Valerie, hello Valerie, thanks for your email. Valerie was asking if a young bull like that gets out of hearing range of the rest of the herd, or will they come looking for him? Well, no, not of that age. At that age, he's probably, they might have even left him behind on purpose. Excuse me, doves, doves, thank you. They might have sneaked off while he was napping, because he's kind of that age that he should be actually joining up with bulls, not following the herd. Remember, it was presumptuous of me to say he was following a herd. I was only thinking that because of the way he was moving, he was on a very distinct path, and being sort of in his late teens, and maybe it is getting on a little bit for him to still be associated with the herd. Maybe he's hearing other elephants and he's just going to meet up with them because he doesn't really want to face could be any number of explanations why he was in such a rush to head in such a straight line on such a pathway. But my guess and my understanding of how they behave, my understanding is that maybe it was because he was trying to catch up with the herd, or maybe it might be a bachelor group. It might be that he's actually been in contact with another elephant, and finally he's actually, having made contact with another bull, he's heading to join another, maybe older bull, because this is the time when he's finally actually letting go of the herd. Looks like a couple of dwarf mongoose resting up in the shade. 3, not a couple, 3 at least. Let's see if we can creep up on them. Oh, off they go. But you know what? I think another one dashing across the road. Let's see if they come out again. We haven't really had much time. There's another one about to cross the road. Did you catch that? There they come. I'm creeping out again. Brian's had a lot of experience filming their cousins, the Kalahari, the meerkats.
Yep. A long time as well.
How long?
That was 11 months. 11 months in the red sand.
No, I don't think they're going to be coming out, and I don't want to sit here. Maybe they want to come out, and they're not going to because we're here. So sometimes when it's a bit of a standoff, we'll just leave them to it. Just the one that was poking its head out, making sure it was okay. And I think the fact that we were there, it was just telling everybody, no, the big bad monster's still out there. Might actually lose us now, going into a bit of a dip. Very bad road, this main road that goes into the Sabi sand, so vehicles do tend to corrugate it a little bit. That's interesting. The remains of a kill. Maybe it's a bit too gross for... It's the remains of a monitor lizard kill. Something's been... And it's normally an eagle that would do something like this. This looks like the likelihood of a... Or rather the work of a martial eagle or a... Maybe a tawny. A young white-throated monitor. Maybe 2 feet long. Looks a little bit gross. Got a bunch of flies. There's even a dung beetle, which is acting as a carcass beetle, I guess. The fact that the meat has been sort of stripped from the ribs means that it's not a fair. It wasn't a large predator that would have just chewed through the tail and through the head. The head is curled off to the side. The fact that most of the middle part has been eaten is sort of an indication of that of a bird of prey that somehow managed to subdue it. My guess is something like an eagle. A lot of the meat been stripped clean from the vertebra. Anything else? The bigger pieces, like the legs and the tail and the head, left behind. Not a common sight. we've got to head a little bit west again. Maybe we can go and see what Scott's up to. Just while we've got the sun in our eyes, we're going to go and see if we can find any of our things from this morning. So, handing over to Scott. We'll see you shortly, everyone.
Good afternoon and welcome aboard Jigger. It's myself and VM paired up today. So VM's on camera and it's a beautiful afternoon our trip, as you will all know, because of the time you would have already spent with Mark and Brian. Myself and VM so far have headed across to Buffelshoek Dam, and on our way there we found some lion tracks. Look like members of a fairly large pride. It's hard to tell exactly how many individuals there were, but they were definitely both lioness and male lion tracks. And we followed them for about 2 miles. They went past the dam and then continued, but sadly they cut out of our property in an easterly direction into a bordering property where we could no longer follow the tracks. So that was a bit disappointing. Other than that, it's been fairly uneventful. It is very hot, so I think a lot of the animals are seeking shelter. Now, the plan is to now head around Treehouse Dam, Twin Dams. There was a sighting of quarantine male there this morning that I got an update on by one of the guides, and hopefully we'll be able to find some sign of him or anything else that's of any interest to us this afternoon. We're just approaching Twin Dams now, and from Twin Dams we'll weave our way along towards Treehouse Dam. He was seen kind of between the two dams this morning, and when they left him he wasn't heading in any specific direction. He was kind of just milling about, so that they are not sure where he may have headed, but at least we know where he was last seen, and we'll snoop around and maybe we'll get a little bit lucky, as we have been really over the last few weeks. We've been so lucky with the game viewing, which is wonderful. It certainly takes a lot of pressure off all of us when the animals are playing along for us. Okay. There doesn't seem to be any visitors at Twin Dams this afternoon. There used to be a herd of buffalo bulls that would spend a lot of time here, but they've obviously found another pond for the time being. There's a hornbill that nests in this tree, so I'm just going to give it a minute or two here and see if he doesn't come back to feed his youngsters. Oh, let me just try to get down this slightly. Oh, and he's just arrived back now, so I'm not even going to move a muscle. Can you just try and zoom? Oh no. Bad timing, but he will be back. Certainly. That was quick. He could have given us a few more seconds. Let me just get the vehicle into a better position now. I got stuck on here. Okay. So it's a red-billed hornbill that we've been watching over the just over the last week, every time I come by, we stop off and give it a few minutes, and he is a very successful hunter, so thankfully we don't have to wait too long before we see him come back to deposit small little parcels of food for his family that is currently being raised within that cavity of this beautiful leadwood tree. Now the female in all likelihood is still in there, I'm guessing. There will come a point in time where she breaks out of that cavity, that she would have completely enclosed herself within the cavity using her excrement. That way they're in a very safe position where very few animals can get into. But once she has spent some time incubating the chicks and raising them for their first about 10 days of life, she will also need to break out and aid the male in continuing to feed both herself and the little chicks growing up inside. Hard to believe that there's a family being raised in that crack of the tree. You would never think, if you just drove past, that anything would be in there. But thankfully one afternoon when we came out, we were just doing an exploratory drive. It had been a rainy bit of a rainy patch, and the morning drive we couldn't do due to rain, so we shot out in the middle of the day to come and try and get some intelligence on what the animals had been doing, and VM, Brian and myself stumbled upon this. You can actually, I think, see a little piece of what is that moving in there? I can see a tiny bit of movement in the little gap of that tree, but I'm guessing it's just the end of the female's bill. I can see a little bit of red on it, so it's in all likelihood just a tiny little piece of a beak, but on the screen you cannot pick that up, sadly. Possibly just a slightly different angle to where I'm seated. And these are the things that, oh, look at this, quickly, VM. There's a pair of guinea fowl with their little baby chicks just crossing the riverbed, and it's the first little baby chicks I've seen of this season. Oh, cute, look at that. So we just caught them, and as the adults were walking across, just before we could show you the shot, all the chicks were literally walking directly underneath them. That's way being well hidden from any potential predators that could see them as they were doing that crossing, where they would have been very vulnerable. Those chicks, as soon as they get into the grass like they're in now, they will disappear with incredibly good cryptic camouflage. You will not be able to find them. So that is why they would have been walking underneath their parents as they crossed the riverbed. That was cool. That was the first baby guinea fowl that I've seen this season. I'm glad we got to show you a little glimpse. Just got a question through from Mike in Connecticut asking whether the hornbills have any predators when they're in the nest, and the reason why would have, sorry, the earpiece was just going there and it threw me off a little bit. So when they are in the cavity of this nest that they enclose themselves in, it'll be very difficult for anything to get inside there. But snakes would be one concern. However, it's a very thin coin slot that most snakes big enough to catch and consume a hornbill actually wouldn't be able to squeeze through. The other thing to remember is that by only having a very small entrance, that allows the female who's in there to peck at anything that may be trying to come in there. Now obviously you have to enter head first, so that female would be able to deliver some nasty pecks to any animals trying to squeeze their head into the small cavity. So I think they are relatively safe while they are in the nest cavity. So a very good nesting plan for them, but I'm sure from time to time animals do manage to break in. Nothing is entirely guaranteed out here, so even though they may feel like they've completely enclosed themselves, they may be. There you can see the beak moving every now and then. If you just watch that, there you can see it moving, glistening. The female's obviously doing a bit of work on the nest, and you'll see a little bit of movement, and I think she could also be throwing out the excrement of the chicks to keep it nice and tidy in there. But yeah, very good question, and I'd be very interested to know whether animals, how often animals do manage to get into these cavities. I personally have never seen it, and I've spent a fair amount of time actually looking at these holes in the tree that we're looking at now. I quite enjoy following birds' nests, and by spending enough time here, hopefully we will see and be able to notice when the chicks fledge, but are still kind of constrained to this tree where they'll flap about for a few hours or a day or two before taking their first flight. So I wonder where the male is, because he's been gone a while, unless he snuck back in while we had our heads turned at the helmeted guinea fowl and their little chicks. He's possibly having a tough time hunting, or maybe it's simply the heat that's causing him to take little breaks between hunting. Okay, well, you win some, you lose some, and we did get a glimpse of this hornbill as we arrived and trying to get into position, but at least we did give it a few minutes, and let's see what else we can see along the way. It really is a welcome relief driving through these shady areas, because in the sun it is cooking. We've been lucky though, there were some massive storm clouds brewing to the north of us, and usually the bad weather doesn't come from the north, but occasionally it can. And yeah, like I say, there were some massive Apologies folks, it was just a report that came through of 2 cheetah that have just been found. Sadly though, not in an area where we can move, but at least these cheetah are moving through our general area. They have yet to come onto our property that we've seen. Maybe 1 or 2 tracks where they've slunk through the corner of Juma. But the fact that they are moving through this general area is a good sign for us, because at any stage they could decide to grace us with their presence. Something that I'm hoping will happen sooner rather than later. I'm going to drive slowly here and just make sure I don't overlook any tracks or signs that may be useful clues. This was the area where quarantine was moving this morning, and he's such a wonderful leopard that I could think of no better way to spend the afternoon than following him. It really is phenomenal how different him and his brother are in terms of their personalities and attitudes towards the vehicles and humans. Quarantine is very relaxed, whereas Kunyuma can be a little bit more hostile towards us. And considering they both had exactly the same upbringing, oh, this is looking very good, folks. Look who we've got walking down the road to us. He does seem to have some attitude, so I'm just going to give him some space. He is swaggering down this hill towards us like he is and must. He's a beautiful big bull. Let's see what happens here. Liam, if you don't mind just turning on that video camera behind you, if you do have a second, but you probably don't. Okay, well he's not in must, but he is, well actually he is, but not full blown. I can see a little bit of moisture between those back legs, but I'm not sure if that is from a recent bath. Either way, he is excited about something, but thankfully has calmed down for the time being. Beautiful. Well, that was a very pleasant surprise that I really wasn't expecting. I'm not sure how well you could see him, his head wagging from side to side as he came down the road towards us, but it looked like he may give us some attitude. Thankfully though, he hasn't. I've now established that the water that we can see, or the kind of dark patches on his back legs, aren't an indication of musters. There's little patches all over his body that are still a little bit moist from obviously a recent bathing. You can even see some of that moisture still on his head. And what I'm hoping is that he'll continue to feed down towards us and give us a very nice close view. You'll notice he's flapping his ears fairly regularly, and that is activating the elephant's main cooling system. The purpose of those huge ears aren't for great hearing, but rather for great cooling. And sadly from this angle we cannot see behind the ear when it flaps, but if you were to see behind that ear, you'd see a network of veins and arteries that allow the elephant to pump blood to the ears or through the ears in order to cool it down. And those massive ears, because they are double-sided obviously, create up to 20% of an elephant's surface area of their body. And that is why elephants can be seen feeding during the hotter hours of the day, or active during the hotter hours of the day relative to other animals, due to this advanced cooling system of theirs. And a highly necessary adaptation, because they need a lot of food to sustain themselves every day, and to acquire all of this food they do sometimes need to feed during the hotter hours. as he's doing right now. Where is he going to disappear to now? Sadly, due to the nature of the vegetation around us, we are not going to be able to reposition very easily. But let's give him a moment or two. I don't think he'll be able to head too far down in the direction he's facing, because there's quite a steep riverbed down to his left. So I'm guessing he may well back out. Yours confirm that animal is heading up the drainage line that comes out at Twin Dams? I don't think so, yours, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, affirmative. Thanks very much, yours. And thanks, Andrew, as well. Thank you. Sorry, folks. I just needed to double check something on the radio there. And thankfully, during the time I was doing that, he has come back into a much better view. And he's giving us a great display of how to use one's trunk skillfully. He may give us some attitude, folks. It's not going to surprise me greatly if he does. But that's fine. My only very slight concern is that he does have a little bit of a downhill run up towards us. It would be more favorable for us to be slightly above him, because they are often less inclined to charge uphill, whereas downhill it can kind of almost naturally just unfold. But as he does continue to feed past us, he probably will just shake his head from side to side once or twice, give us a great view, and then continue on his way without any harm to us or himself. I wonder how old he is. Go ahead with the question, Alex. We've just got a question through from Marilyn asking whether elephants can feed on grass and live on grass, or do they just eat leaves of trees. And they eat a very mixed diet, and this is necessary because they do not digest their food very well, and therefore need a wide variety of different food sorts to be able to get their recommended daily allowance. In an ideal world, though, elephants would just eat fresh green grass because that would put the least pressure on their teeth, because when their teeth wear down, that is often the cause of their death, is their lack of molars to grind up their food. So ideally they would just eat grass as it is easiest to process, but at different times of year this is not necessarily an option. I wonder if it's worth us following him for a while. Just thinking of how long it'll take him to get to Treehouse Dam, or Twin Dams rather. What to do? Let's follow him for a while. It's still very hot, and I don't think we're gonna find a better character to view during the heat. So let's stay with him and see what he does for us. Cool, then you can switch off there, buddy, the video when you're ready. That was really wonderful, that big head shake he gave us before he passed by. And I hope you enjoyed that, because it is a great show of their size and power when they flap those big ears, especially in perfect sunlight like he did, and we could see all the dust flying off. It's a small acacia shrub he's just pulled out there. And if it wasn't for the elephants plucking a lot of these little saplings, we would have an extremely dense woodland in this area, so that's a vitally necessary destruction that they perform. Now we've got a much better angle to see the veins behind his ears that aid in their cooling. So as he flaps his ear, we will be able to see those veins. And they pump liters and liters of blood through those ears every minute, and this helps to cool them down. I hope you could pick up that low rumbling, because it's a really beautiful audio to hear, and they don't often do it, and it's just a low rumbling kind of sound. That sounds very prehistoric. You can imagine the noise coming from a dinosaur. And interestingly enough, a bizarre fact for the day. Maybe it's not true, but I was told it was. so somebody can maybe double check. But in Jurassic Park, the audio that they used for the T-Rex was apparently audio of a koala bear. So you wouldn't expect a koala bear to make a noise fierce enough to be given to T-Rex in a movie, but nature does have these funny little surprises for us. Again, I'm not 100% sure of how true that is, but I was told that by a fairly reliable source. Well, I'm glad we've got this back angle, because as we have been discussing the cooling devices. Thanks, Alex. Alex is going to double check that for me, but we can again see some great angles of that network of veins and arteries through their ears. And also, interestingly enough, that extra flap of skin that dangles down from the top, that also makes the fact that 20% of their surface area of their body is made up by their ears. A fact that is hard to believe when you first hear it, but those extra flaps will, I'm sure, add on, making that a more realistic fact to process. And interestingly, we've got what is a little starling that's performing the role that usually the fork-tailed drongo does. And just in front of it at the moment there's a beautiful blue starling. I'm not sure whether it's the greater blue-eared or the glossy. They look very similar. But it's also doing what the drongo does on a more common basis, and that's hoping that by hanging around this elephant, the elephant's going to chase up little insects that it can then catch. Well done, Wiem. But sadly, the starling has landed in a tricky spot, but let's see if it doesn't fly into an opening. They're really, really beautiful birds, especially if the sunlight catches them at the right angle. And the whole time he's been feeding, he's been, oh, there it goes. But sadly again into a spot difficult to see. You are ready, Alex, when you are? Well, Alex has just told me that apparently the T-Rex roaring, oh, there's the starling, beautiful, in the sunlight. It is a bit obscured, but you can see that incredible iridescence. So now Alex has told me that one of the vocalizations, look at that, well done, Wiem, with the elephants in the background. That's so beautiful. I hope somebody managed to get a screenshot of that, because that is awesome. Well done, Wiem. So the audio made by T-Rex in Jurassic Park at one stage was that of a baby elephant. So there we go. Possibly koala bear was used for another dinosaur in the movie that I'm getting confused with, but I'm convinced a koala bear was used for one of them at least. Great work there with the camera, Wiem. Okay. Well, I think from okay, so Alex has also confirmed that the koala bear was used for sound effects for, I think it was T-Rex, but definitely the sound effects of a koala bear were used in Jurassic Park, as well as a baby elephant. So Who would have thought? Now, I think it's getting to that stage of the game where we should change the scenery a little bit. As much as we have been enjoying the views of this elephant bull, I think we should head on our mission. And I was hoping if we carry on moving quickly towards Twin Dams, it may be useful for us to hang around him, but because it would have been great to see him drinking or mud bathing. But it'll be a while before he gets there, if he does ever get there. So we shall continue and see what else we can find. Area we're driving through now, just there's so many potential hiding places for any animal that it requires intensive scanning to try and optimize our chances of finding something. Oh, look what we have here. Now, whoever guesses the owner of this little bundle of goods in the road here will not get a huge prize, but you will get some credit for telling me who it is. I'm sure most of you have guessed that this is in fact the elephant that we have just been watching, droppings. You can see a marula fruit in there, in the middle bolus, and as the marula fruits continue to ripen, we'll begin to notice more and more marula fruits in their dung, and then we will certainly be able to show you the squirrels. Once the dung has started to dry out a little bit, we'll be able to show you the squirrels rummaging through the elephant droppings to try and get as many of these marula nuts as they can. The other thing that would have been difficult to notice there, but I will show you at some stage, is that the fruits passed through basically undigested as they went in, but occasionally if the elephant just perforates the skin, a lot of those juices rich in vitamins get absorbed into the elephant system, but none of the actual fruit itself. It's got a very thin layer of fruit, and it's more the juice that they'll be trying to harness. So they look undigested or untouched, but if the elephant just crushes them a little bit, that opens up the skin and then allows the elephants to absorb the very, very high vitamin C content that these marula fruits have. Okay. No traffic. Most times we see quarantinis in a hungry condition, so it is forcing them to move a lot in search of food, which is great for viewing purposes if you manage to find them, but if you can't find them, then obviously that's not so useful for us. I thought I saw a track further back there, but it was my mind playing tricks on me. Copy, thank you, Alex. Could you give me a little bit more information than that, please? Okay, well, let me know when you're ready for a link. So there's just one buffalo, or two rather, sitting here in Treehouse Dam. One of which has two oxpeckers sitting on its head. They've got their little own island paradise. Oh, there's a third one coming to join. Beautiful. Sadly though, no sign of quarantine here. Well folks, from these sleepy buffalo, I think we can cut across to Mark and see what he's been up to. He's also doing a great job here showing you the progress of the village weavers and the nests they've been building. But why don't you go across to Mark and see what he's up to, and that way it'll give VM and myself a chance to look around and see if we can find any sign of quarantine in this area. So we'll see you later.
Welcome to Arathusa, everybody. Welcome to a lovely summer afternoon. Arathusa Private Game Lodge. Arathusa Safari Lodge, actually. And we're on a section of the area that is far further west than we've ever been able to be in the past. And we're sitting with a very important leopard. Getting the nods. It's a hot afternoon. She's been quite active with the presence of a hyena. Her name is Shadow, and she is one of the first two cubs of Karula. When Karula was just over 2.5 years old, she was raising this girl Shadow and her sister, and whose name is Tandi, who lives much further east from where we are right now. And Shadow has a cub. She had two cubs. One of her cubs was killed a few weeks ago as well. Maybe not quite the same time as Karula. I'm not too sure about the timing, but that could have been where the story started about another cub being killed by hyena. That's possibly what it was Shadow's cub, not Karula's other cub, and people just got their wires all mixed up. Hello. But her cub that is left, I don't know whether it's male or female, is in a tree with a kill. She must have, it's really quite an unusual thing how this kill managed to get to where it is at the moment, because it's not the typical tree that you would find a leopard taking a kill into. So I'm guessing that maybe having the cub here and having had the kill in the same place, or maybe she brought the cub here. Whatever the story might have been that brought the circumstances or presented the circumstances to us, we have a leopard and a hyena and a cub in a tree with her kill, and so the circumstances could be multifarious as to what really developed this whole scenario. My guess is that the hyena was here very shortly after she made the kill, It could have been that the hyena came across them when she was feeding with the cub, but for whatever reason, the good thing is she managed to get the kill in a tree in an almost impossible place, and it's also a knobthorn that is a very thorny tree. The cub is up the tree, the hyena is refusing to leave. The hyena is sitting there. Well, she's sleeping actually, and she's between the tree and shadow. So she's not actually interested in shadow at all. She's interested in perhaps either the prospect of the kill that is in the tree, or perhaps the opportunity to eliminate competition like her cub, like Shadow's cub. The same as what has happened to her previous cub and what happened to Karula's cub just recently. Now, there are a couple of things that sort of can ensue. And as I say, there are a lot of things that could have led to this moment. In that for some reason the hyena is not interested in her at all. There is a hyena here. It happened to be a place where the cub was, where she has a kill as well, and it's become a little bit of a stalemate situation because the hyena is not going anywhere. Quite often with predators, and especially predators that have cubs or youngsters, they will relinquish their kill. They would rather relinquish the kill than actually have a confrontation with another predator. Especially raising a calf, you can't afford to have a calf. What am I thinking of? I'm distracted a little bit because I'm trying to watch what this vehicle is doing. A predator who's especially raising a cub and having the responsibility that she has is going to avoid any confrontation because she can't afford to be injured. So she knows that keeping her distance the way she is right now, she's not likely to have anything happen. Where if the hyena got up and made any move towards her, she would be able to get away very, very quickly. The hyena is not even interested in her. It's just lifting its head now. And it's probably going to go back to sleep shortly. All the hyena needs to hear are a couple of footfalls on the grass or something falling out of the tree, or maybe jumping out of the tree. There's just no way around getting this situation because she would probably relinquish the carcass if she could, but the hyena's not getting into the tree, neither is she, and so there's not much chance of the carcass falling out of the tree. Can you get much of the carcass? I'm just thinking that maybe it looks like it's a little bit red. Maybe it's a steenbok. It's an impala. Okay, so let us change our position. Get a slightly better view. It's probably going to go. Didn't even know we were on. Put it directly in the sun now. Eyes closed. So Scott is live. Okay. Sleeping hot. Okay, well, welcome everybody. I'm sorry there's a bit of confusion this afternoon, and if I've been quiet or saying odd things. Really, really. So unfortunately, we can't really see the hyena from this angle, but as I was saying, it's a bit of a stalemate. We would let the hyena take. We would let the hyena take the from the one away. Actually, so I think we're going to just try and leave her. There is some light on the cub. Let's try and find our way.
Welcome back, folks, and we've just got a virtual starling over here on the right-hand side of this tree, poking its head into its nest in all likelihood. Very beautiful birds. Hard to tell exactly what's going on. And welcome back to us. Sorry about having to switch abruptly from mark and shadow. Ooh. What's she doing? Some housekeeping there. Between the males and females of the starlings. You can see there's something in her beak, or his beak. Possibly trying to feed a chick, but chicks usually gobble up whatever their parents put in front of them, so she wouldn't usually be battling to do this. There's a huge competition between all the chicks to get as much food as possible. So possibly some housekeeping is what is going on here. And like I say, sorry about having to cut back from Mark abruptly. I'm sure he will just be getting back into a good position where there is signal, and as soon as that is stable, Alex will let us know and you will go back to them. But in the meantime, we can watch the starling and try and establish exactly what's going on. The other bird you can hear calling is in all likelihood its mate, also perched higher up in the same tree. Myself and VM haven't moved too far from where you last saw us at Treehouse Dam. We are searching a little bit closely now for any more tracks and signs of any animals really, but specifically quarantine male. He was seen in this area this morning, so we are focusing on our efforts on trying to find him. And we have found some tracks just behind where we parked now, but they could well be his tracks from yesterday evening. He was also in this area yesterday evening when we got a brief glimpse of him. No, another individual's just flown up to another hole, higher up. Oh, no, it just flew back, sadly. So possibly they're investigating which would be the best one for the nest, because there are various different cavities within this tree. Oh, this is a beautiful shot. And we can see it calling. Wonderful, look at those beautiful feathers iridescing in the sunlight. This is a magical, magical view of these birds. Wouldn't it be wonderful to know what they're saying? Thinking, oh, what do you think of our new spot, honey? Or she's possibly moaning in disgust, saying, what is this place you brought me to? Hard to tell, but certainly some serious communication going on between the two of them. So wonderful to be able to see the birds actually calling, and have great views of them, because we do often show you glimpses of birds, but when it's in perfect sunlight like this and we're so close to them and they are calling for us, it really is beautiful. Well, that was great. Thank you, and happy housekeeping, or whatever it is you were doing in there. Well, this riverbed here could well be where quarantine is resting now. It's nice and cool and sandy in these riverbeds, so I don't know, if I was a leopard I'd certainly be relaxing in there this afternoon. Mark is still trying to maneuver the vehicle into a spot where you've got signal, or where he's got signal, so hopefully it won't be long before that little issue is resolved and you can go back to Shadow and her cub and see what they're up to. I'm so happy we've got to see some new leopard, and especially that Mark's also got to see them. Let's try and film this squirrel. They really are so cute. And when they do sit around for a little bit, we should make the most of it. That call you can hear in the background is the call of another tree squirrel, and that is their alarm call. This one, however, is not alarm calling, and but it did seem fairly alarmed there. Oh, well done, VM. They're incredibly... Oh, look, those two are playing. There's two there. They're moving very quickly, and VM's doing incredibly well to stay on them. Let's just keep an eye on them. Hopefully they'll come out onto a less obstructed branch and continue playing for us. Oh, no, it looks like they're heading... No, let's try and creep up a little bit closer and see if we can't get another angle. Oh, sorry VM, this is not easy, but worth a try. Well done. Well, VM, if you just go down, yeah, there we go. This one's obviously thinking about maybe jumping down into the grass and changing trees. Hard to tell though, but like I say, VM is doing incredibly well. Look at that. I mean, that is awesome. Incredibly agile, and I'm so happy that VM managed to capture it sitting or clambered horizontal onto that little bush willow tree. They look like young squirrels, both of these, so they could be brother and sister playing around. Adults are slightly bigger than them. Look at that tail. Okay, well, I think we can continue, as I doubt we're going to get better views than what we have done already, as they have moved off a little bit away from the vehicle and onto a thicker part of this vegetation that makes it even more tricky for VM to follow. But he did a great job there, and I hope you enjoyed that, because I did. And it's also important to remember that it's at times like this, when you stop for a bird or you stop for a squirrel, that you see something else, something that you potentially have been searching for hours for, and then when you stop to look at something else, they magically appear. Alex, go ahead with your message. Okay folks, well, good news. Mark's managed to reposition the vehicle into a good spot, so you are about to go back and enjoy some views of Shadow and her cub. So enjoy, and we'll see you later.
Welcome back all. Beautiful fading light of the afternoon, and able to get a little bit of a glimpse of this cub stuck up a knob thorn with the carcass. The carcass is starting to smell. I don't think she's been able to get to it since yesterday. Here comes the hyena now. Oh, one of them. Actually, this is the second one, come to think of it, because I can still see one of them sleeping. So she's going to react shortly. This one looks like it's just woken up, yawning. A coming through the bushes just in front of me, just off to my right. Don't know if it's going to greet the one that's still sleeping here, or it's just added to the numbers and added to the tension of the scene that we're witnessing. We have a scene here where a leopard, who's actually one of Karula's cubs, has killed an impala, taken it up a tree, got a cub up the tree as well, and these hyenas are just not giving up. They are hanging around. They either want the carcass or they want the cub, whichever comes first. And they're ganging up on her. She's not going to try to chase them away. She's not going to risk her life. The moment the cub is safe, and the cub can probably stay there, can probably move around a little bit if it needed to. Just tremendous patience, tremendous tenacity for just staying put, staying where it is, not panicking, given the danger that lies at the base of this tree. This is not a casual situation. These hyenas might look like they're lazy and they're sleeping, but they are so tuned in to every noise and every nuance of what might be happening that they will even hear her get up or yawn or stretch. They're just preventing her from coming back to the tree. And it's not exactly the kind of tree where she's going to be comfortable in. If we can sort of get a little bit of a zoomed out view, it's sort of a multi-trunk knobthorn that doesn't have any lateral branches to talk of. And for an adult leopard to try and, well, it's impossible to get comfortable. She'd be at the mercy of fatigue. The cub, on the other hand, has managed to find itself a spot where it's lying down. It's not using any energy to be where it is. In fact, it's taken the very typical leopard pose, and it's got the legs hanging. It's actually watching this show underneath it. It's looking quite cute, actually. Wondering why don't these other creatures move away. Biloxi, gosh, Biloxi down in, where's Biloxi? Louisiana, maybe? Tennessee, down there. I know it's somewhere on the Gulf. Biloxi. Laura, hi. What's the hyena's predator, and what would likely come along and chase it away? Well, lion, I guess, in some respects. Lion are one of the main enemies of hyena. Hyena themselves, to some extent, but unfortunately they're a little bit more powerful than leopards, so leopards are not going to come off best when it comes to a confrontation between the two. So I think this little one's trying to intimidate them by looking at them, but they're just not looking back at it, so that they can't see this death stare that it's giving them. They couldn't really, the two hyenas that are here, couldn't really give a hoot. And looks like the little one, I mean, if a cat could stare something down, that would be the look. And as only a cat can, it looks quite comfortable. You know how cats can find a way to flow their body over the most obtruse angles and ornaments and places and still be comfortable and still catch a nap. Oh, getting a strong scent of this kill now, starting to ripen. I mean, it's been exposed to the heat and this humidity for a couple of days now, so it's starting. And the worst thing about this situation is, of course, being so smelly, it is not only attracting flies and things, but it's obviously going to attract more attention from other predators. So this is an interesting thing to see. It's something we might have to follow up with tomorrow. Scotty will come with Wendy tomorrow and hopefully follow up on this particular saga. Morning. 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 Let me move.
Right.
I'll move.
No, it's fine.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. I'll shit. Alright, Minja. Starting to get a bit of light in late afternoon light in the eye. Copy that, thanks. The problem, of course, being a cub is a cub can get impatient. A cub doesn't really have the patience of an adult. And it can get tired of things. I think that we had a question now from Arkansas, from Arkiet in Arkansas, is how can it survive without water up in the tree? Well, fortunately, with the kind of digestive system that's needed to slowly absorb all of the protein from a kill, there's also a certain amount of moisture that they do get from the blood, from the meat. But under the circumstances, none of that really matters, because the cub's going to have to try and push it as long as it can. I said earlier, this is a standoff. It's a rather unique situation. She can't come closer to do anything about it. Now that there are 2 hyena and possibly more later, the same thing might play out tomorrow. But eventually, something will have to give, and there's no knowing, there's no guessing, there's no idea of what that's going to be, other than to come and visit this every now and then and to keep track of it and to see what transpires. She knows that there's nothing really going to happen until something makes a move. One of the best things that could happen is that some of that impala rots away and the pieces fall down and the hyena are satisfied enough that they take it away. But without another leopard feeding on it, without anything actually physically moving the carcass, it's not likely going anywhere. But anything like buffalo or lion or elephant or any other large mammal moving through here might change the situation considerably. So it's not as stale a stalemate as one might think. But as long as everybody keeps their place, nobody's going to get hurt. And I think the key is for everybody involved. No one wants a confrontation. Somebody just wants something to eat, and as far as the hyena are concerned, they don't care whether it's the impala or a baby leopard. They want one of them. Probably preferably the little leopard. I think we'll go back to shadow if we can. No, it's cool. I'll just go around the side of you. Thanks, Morne. What we can do is just have a that has just as much right to be here as the cub and the leopard and everything else, and it's just nature playing its drama, and we're very lucky to be able to witness something like this. Despite the presence of the vehicle and the move, there isn't really any to actually what takes place. Hyena haven't been forced away by vehicles, which is good, although it's tempting us almost every guide that's in here to try and do something about these hyenas. Everybody knows there's actually nothing. Keep our distance, and we've got to make sure that whatever happens is the way nature plans it all. Can't get a glimpse of that other one, but also really beautiful light on this hyena's face. Yeah. She's not too happy with us being so close. Maybe.
Well, they're probably hoping to get some of the scraps that fall.
So that's how it is. It's all about waiting for something to happen, because the hyena can't do anything. I mean, let's face it, this is the standoff. The hyena can't do anything. What they can do is they can try and chase Shadow away. They can sort of try and rush her, and then she'll run away a little bit or climb a tree, and then they'll retreat back here because they don't want to miss anything out over here. So they're reluctant to go anywhere but here. And she can't do anything, because as soon as she came near the tree, they'd chase her and they'd try and kill her. So as long as they keep their little distance like this, the only thing that can happen is for something to happen in the tree, unfortunately, and that's for that cub to get hungry sometime tonight, and hopefully it'll be long after the game drives have been here, and it'll be by the light of the stars and the moon. Well, it'll be a very late moon. And that some of the meat falls down and some of the situation is resolved, but at the moment, kind of a really difficult situation. So I know there are going to be other vehicles wanting to come and have a look, so we need to try and remove ourselves from this equation. It's not going to be easy. I'd like to get a little glimpse of Shadow before we go. Yummy. From This angle actually we can get a good glimpse of both leopard, and you can see the kill from this angle too. A little bit off to the side. It's not an easy tree for a leopard to leave a kill because without any horizontal branches it makes it a bit difficult for them to move around.
Yeah, I think so, I'm not sure. What's your program called again?
WildEarth.
WildEarth, yeah.
Yes.
So you
Or
just
also
log on to the net.
Yeah, also through National Geographic Wild, Nat Geo Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
WildSafari Live it is. It's called WildSafariLive.com or WildEarth.tv. Do join us when you get back. You'll still be able to see the same, continue with this drama.
Yeah.
Bush clearing. Okay. That's quite an interesting question from Lisa. Lisa wants to know how come leopard get nervous with hyena around, because hyena can't climb. Well, it's not so much. Huh? What about her? What about her? Huh? Yeah, so I was in a way. It's like, sorry, look at Shadow. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, everybody. I'm dense. I'm not see-through. Yeah, she's not pleased with that little attempt at a joke either. Either. How come they're nervous because hyena can't really climb? Well, the thing is that if hyena get hold of them, they don't really have much of a defense against hyena. They are a fraction of the size of hyena. They're so much small. Geez, really, Morne? But you can see she's not really that nervous. She's actually she's quite comfortable being this close to them because she knows that she can outpace them up to a tree to get away from them, but she is not going to go anywhere without her cub. She's only here to be able to be with her cub and to give reassurance. And hopefully to warn the cub not to try and move around and not try to climb down the tree. The hyena are not really bothered with her because they know that they'll run circles around her before they'll get her, and it's a waste of energy. There are, as I've said before, there are two things that they're interested in. They're either interested in that carcass or they're interested in the cub, whichever comes out of that tree first. And at the moment, since the carcass isn't moving but the cub is, it doesn't take a genius to work out which is the most likely to be first out of the tree. We can only hope that it isn't, and that something happens, that cub tries to feed and dislodges the carcass, or something happens. What would be great would be to see her getting to that tree, but with the hyenas so close, they are preventing her from approaching the tree because they're almost at the base of the tree. So it's not so much that they're fairly safe from hyena because hyena can't climb. It's more a case of there's a certain amount of time they can spend in a tree, and they've got to be on the ground at certain for a large portion of their time, and consequently that's when they're the most vulnerable, when they're on the ground and hyena are able to get them. The hyena will ignore her and go for the cub because it's smaller, it's slower, it's far more vulnerable. And I would say that even somewhat vindictive, they would actually rather eliminate the cub than settle for the carcass. There's such strong competition amongst the predators. She's tired. She's been vigilant for 2 days now. She probably hasn't slept. She hasn't eaten. She too probably hasn't had anything to drink. Here comes another hyena in the distance. We can probably just lift the camera to see a third one coming in. It's going to be an awkward night all around. Yeah, she's heard it coming. She could hear those footprints. She could hear those footsteps. So this is an interesting. We'll see what she does. Just gonna slink away. It's a young hyena, fortunately. She's just gonna try and avoid it. I don't think. Well, who knows? Let's see what happens. There is a dead tree here. She can jump onto that fallen knobthorn if she needed. She's welcome to jump on the Land Rover, although the engine's probably a bit hot. But I think the hyena, being a youngster, will probably avoid her. She's hissing at it. Once again, it's probably a little bit too much to risk injury when there's no need to actually confront her at all. Being a young hyena, hyena's only coming to the adults. It's coming to see what's around. Probably learnt about this earlier last night sometime, and they've been sleeping elsewhere during the day, coming back to investigate. She's not a comfortable cat, but she's keeping her distance, showing her displeasure. Barely audible hiss. Now relaxing. Jeffrey in Texas. One of those questions, Jeffrey. So I'm going to try and move, and it might be okay because we're not going too far. I just want to go back a little bit. How long will the hyena hang around? Jeffrey, there's no way to know. Absolutely no way whatsoever. Unique circumstance. These circumstances have never occurred before time, and they never will occur again. This is a one-off moment, and the very reason why we are here is to see what transpires, because there's no way of knowing, not even a psychic. Nobody can know how long they will stay around, whether they stick around and wait. There could very well be something that attracts their attention nearby, that they hear something being killed, or some other hyena kill something and they rush off to another kill, and it's far more efficient to go to a sure thing to wait around here for something that might have happened. So there is an untold number of possibilities of what can happen. that is one of the, as I say, why we're here, so that we will be able to monitor this and try and keep track of what's going on. Fortunately, the guys here at Arathusa will be able to come and visit as well tomorrow, maybe before we can get here. Scott will be in Wendy tomorrow, so he can come straight here almost, see what's happening in the morning to do an update. But a very, very interesting confrontation, and something that we speak about a lot. We often talk about the kind of interspecific interactions that take place, and I can't remember, well, apart from the Karula incident last month when she lost her cub, and there that young hyena is actually walking around the base of the tree now. She's watching it. But other than that, it's been a long time since we've seen the kind of interaction between leopard and hyena like we had with Mishu and Induna and Karula, and those hyenas in the dip just off of Weaver's Nest and Treehouse. The little one's actually cleaning itself, although you're not going to be able to see it. I don't know if you can. There's a way to get through. I can move a little bit to try and get a little glimpse. It's actually quite amazing because this late afternoon sun is now shining sideways into this knobthorn, straight onto the face of this baby leopard. And it'd be hard to try and get it through the branches, but maybe we can get a frame like that. Not quite.
Not bad, but
No, it's not bad at all. Just that now it's not moving. It was moving earlier. It was doing a bit of grooming.
here we go.
Something's tickling its tail. Or oh, it's watching the young hyena below it. That's what it's doing. The young hyena is walking right below the tree, and the little leopard's watching it. And they're going to be enemies for life, those two. Young hyena, young leopard. They're going to be knocking heads for the rest of their lives because they live in the same place, and there's always going to be a kill that one comes to that the other one's at. So I'm thinking if we should use the last little bit of light to go and see those two Birmingham boys and see what they might do when they start waking up. Or I'm thinking maybe we're just going to sit here and watch the light fade. Let's see if we can move a little bit and get some of those expressions on this little one's face. Shame Shadow, I do feel for you, girl. actually from this angle, it's also nice because there's almost nothing obscuring it at all. Even if it is a little far away, it's still really beautiful. Wider view of this scenario. And now we're downwind. That as close as it goes. You don't have an extended zoom on this thing. Beautiful child. The hyena's walking underneath again. You can see how it's looking down, watching, learning. Young hyena though. Little one looks like it needs a stretch. Watching the hyena. Away flies. He's sitting right in the center of it, so he's sitting amongst flies. Okay, something developing down here on the ground now. Hyena. Uvium. See, I don't know what to do because now this hyena is moving closer towards shadow. Brian? Don't know, something might happen here. That's interesting. Quickly. She turned around and hissed at it. Also got another large grey animal. So she whirled around and I thought she was about to actually attack this young hyena. I think a young hyena is actually taking a chance, trying to get close to her. Okay, copy, go. We're just going to Scott. Scott's got a nice sunset since we can't really see it from here. Go and just see a little bit of a sunset with Scott, and we'll be back with us hopefully shortly.
Folks, welcome back, and we're just a few seconds too late. We had the sun beautifully lighting up these grass seeds just before it ducked behind the clouds, but we still are going to be able to give you a beautiful view of where we are. And that right there is the magical sunset that we are witnessing right now. And as you can see, it's just ducked behind that cloud. Absolutely beautiful. Well done, VM. Copy that, Mark. Well, now that the sun has disappeared behind that beautiful cloud, we have done what we wanted to do, myself and VM. So we're going to cut back to Mark, because I do believe you've got a very exciting situation going on there. So back to Mark, and we'll hopefully see you later. If not, we'll see you tomorrow.
Okay, well, you're back with us. We've got some interesting developments here. Well, not really as tense as it was, but this hyena is sniffing around, and it is trying to sort of get close to her. Now it's sitting down, and it's now flanking her, outflanking her. So now she got hyena on both sides of her. Sun is now setting. Hope you had a nice sunset with Scott. I didn't mean to bring you back so quickly. Weird thing is that there are two other big pachyderms here that are hanging out to the west of us by maybe, I'd say, only like 30 yards at the most, and they could change things dramatically. Can't see them. They're behind some bushes, and we can't see them even if they weren't. Ideally, it would be nice to stay here right throughout the night with infrared cameras and watch and wait and see what happens, because I think nighttime will change a lot of things. A lot of the noise that we're hearing now, a lot of bird call and a lot of things, that's all going to quieten down. The night sounds will come alive, and then hearing will be a much more important asset than sight. And, well, it'll be cooler, things will be happening. Fortunately, hyena don't climb trees, so at this stage of the game, cub is quite safe. And if it can manipulate, or if it can find its way to the kill, it's actually got something to eat, and it's got some moisture in the meat that it'll eat. She's looking like she wants to make a gap for something. She's now sitting forward a little bit. Make a run for the tree, Shadow. And comfort your baby and eat some meat. You need something. Drop part of the carcass, let them run away with it, and it'll give you time to get out of there with your baby. That's the plan. It's not quite rushing to follow that plan, but I guess we're not going to see. We can be moving on, actually. We're going to need to move out of here. Maybe we can go back to Scott while I'm trying to maneuver out of here. We are going to lose signal while we're trying to get out. And we'll join up with you, perhaps. I'm going to try and get to try and get to those Birmingham boys. They're going to be waking up soon too. We'll see if we can get to them before it's time to say goodbye. Try and sneak past her and get a glimpse. Interesting why this young hyena decides to go and lie down where it is. I'm sorry, go over here and we just say, sorry. Just stop a little bit. A little bit. Bed. She is I think it's not.
Welcome back, folks, and apologies for the break in signal from Mark, but he's just getting into a slightly different position, and as soon as he's regained signal we'll cut back to him. But this really is beautiful what we're witnessing here, so we are just going to keep showing you the beautiful clouds to the western horizon. What a magical sunset it's been. And myself and VM have changed position ever so slightly from where we were, so that we could both come and take some photographs actually. And look at that, for just an absolutely magnificent vista to be staring out to this afternoon. Such a magical time of the evening this. It's very calm and still. There's a few bird calls, as you can hear, but not too much. Very peaceful and tranquil moments. However, out there in the wilderness, the predators will certainly be starting to get active, and if anything, it's just a kind of moment of relief before the darkness sets in for all the prey items. They'll be starting to worry now, because the cover of darkness is what aids the predators in their hunting. And looking out into this beautiful view, you can't help but wonder all the different scenarios and events that may be unfolding. Absolutely beautiful. It can be fairly hazy at this time of the year, and there is actually a town nearby to us called Hazy View. And it is kind of out in that general direction, a bit further south of where we're looking now. But great to be able to take some time to be able to show you the beautiful setting that we're in. Not just the animals, the stars of the show, but the greater surroundings that they live in. And I think Wiem has just done an exquisite job of taking you on a tour of the sunset. So now it is back to me, and I think I am going to continue with a little bit of movements. I haven't heard anything else from Mark or Alex in the controls, so not sure how they're doing with the signal, but I'm sure they will give us an update as soon as they can broadcast again. So just 15 more minutes roughly. What else could happen in that time? Who knows? Myself and Wiem spent a lot of time working the area where quarantine was last seen in the hope that we may find him, but didn't have any luck. So have a little look at these wildebeest. There's one right in the center of the shots which has started to go a much darker color, very similar to that of an adult wildebeest. And there we go, you can see the darker coloration and the brindles starting to form on the neck. And this one has matured faster than any of the others, so possibly the firstborn of this herd from this season. And there's some more walking into screen now, and Wiem will show you the youngest one in this herd, which is that one there probably. And look at the difference in the coating between the two right there next to one another. Perfect opportunity to compare. So very interesting to note that very notable change coming just within a few months of them being born. It's barely even 2 months that some of these animals have been alive, yet already, look at the one on the far left, that one's really dark, and yet they've already started to really develop. Oh, this one's getting a bit excited, but that's normal, I guess, with the youngsters. They are learning and experimenting. Oh, no, that is an impala alarm calling. It's looking straight at us. It's obviously Wiem that it's shouting at, or the other impala behind. What is it? Maybe the ones can see something on the right. Let's try and get onto them there, Wiem. These two here, but they're looking straight at us, so it must be Viem's wearing a leopard print one piece this afternoon, and that's obviously what they're alarmed about. No, I'm only kidding, he's not wearing a leopard print one piece, but they are for some reason looking straight at us, and unless there's a leopard underneath our vehicle that we don't know about, it's possibly just a false alarm. That was exciting though, and you saw how quickly the wildebeest responded. As soon as that initial alarm call went off, every single one of those wildebeest were basically in the air, ready to move. But just like humans, animals make mistakes, so that was obviously a false alarm, and better to err on the side of caution out here than to take any chances. So go ahead, Alex. Tony's just asked whether, or which type of wildebeest these are, and we get two types in South Africa, the black wildebeest and the blue wildebeest. And these here are the blue wildebeest. And if Liam just pans to the left a little bit, we can see Brian's mother. Brian's one of the young gnu's that we saw getting born a couple of weeks ago, or about a month and a half ago, and there she is. Oh, just to the right a bit you can see the one with the deformed horn, and that could well be Brian, young Brian, right below her. So the one at the back of the shot you can see has got a slightly deformed horn. And back to your question, Tony, these are the blue wildebeest, and they are slightly larger, or considerably larger than the black wildebeest, which we don't get in this area. The black wildebeest prefer drier, more arid areas of South Africa. But yep, that looks like Brian, and the only way we can tell that it is Brian is because his mum does have that very unique deformed horn. But great to notice, and we'll know exactly which day that animal was born, and we'll be able to go and look in the archives. So we could tell to the day how old it is. And let me try and work it out roughly. The VM, it was mid-November. Hey? Roughly. It was just before I got you, I think, that you guys, Brian and
Yeah, about 20.
and VM were born. Yeah, so possibly just a few days before I arrived on the 22nd of November. So close on 2 months then. There and thereabouts, and there'll be footage of that young wildebeest being born, which is incredible to think, and 4 others. So we got really lucky with the wildebeest and their calving this year. Thank you, Alex. Okay, well, let's go for an evening jog with the wildebeest. Why not? Here we go. If any of you are feeling a bit restless, you could run on the spot and imagine that you are running with us on this miniature migration. Haha, this is awesome. Oh, shame, I don't want to chase them, and they just jammed on brakes, so it was a short jog. If any of you did jump out of your seats and started jogging on the spot, I'm sorry to get you all excited for nothing. But as much as they were enjoying themselves, running through vegetation, even though it's fairly open either side of this road, running quickly towards something may be getting yourself into trouble quite quickly. So they do have to be cautious just heading off like this. But for us it's wonderful. And I hope you're thoroughly enjoying being escorted by this herd of wildebeest. I think they're on their way to quarantine clearings. And what a great sight this has been. Let's see if we can get alongside them for a while. And there they go, off into the bushes. Beautiful. Well done, Liam. Liam's been having an incredible afternoon behind that camera. I think we're going to have to ask our chef Zanele to make him the same breakfast tomorrow morning, because he is firing. Alex, what's the situation with Mark? Are you planning on trying to get back there before we close? Copy that, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay. Copy that, perfect. Okay, well, Mark has left Shadow and her cub, and he's off to try and get to, oh beautiful, sorry I didn't even notice what BM was showing here, and it's the beautiful crepuscular rays that are bouncing off the clouds above us and down onto the eastern horizon. A spectacular phenomenon that, those crepuscular rays. Anyway, as I was saying, Mark is on his way to try and find some other animals for you, and in the next few minutes hopefully you will be linking back to him and he'll be saying goodbye, and potentially you'll be saying hello to some different animals. But in the meantime, we will continue and see what we can find. Oh, it's a magical evening. It really is. It's a and the coolness about these evenings and just the calmness of them is something that I think you have to be here to feel for yourselves one day. And if you haven't been to Africa, do everything in your power to get here as soon as possible, because it is a magical, magical place. Ooh, a feather. Well, I've been looking for feathers for the last few days and you don't come across them very often, so I'm going to get out and get this one. It looks like a beautiful specimen and I need a new one for my hat. Not quite as good as I thought it was going to be, but it still is very pretty. So I'm not sure what it's from, possibly an owl, but hard to tell, and sadly it's not in as good a condition as I was hoping it to be in. But it's still pretty and we will still keep it with us. We'll see if we can find a place in this little mic here for it. That kind of works. What I'm going to also do is just swing the vehicle around and show you the silhouette of a marula tree with some outrageously beautiful colors behind it. So stand by for a magical, magical silhouette of a marula. Okay, so VM's just getting himself all levered out and ready. Now that right there is an incredibly beautiful view of a wonderful tree that provides us a lot of good leopard sightings. Sorry Alex, I've had my earpiece out. Is Mark ready? Okay, copy, perfect. A few francolins letting off their last calls this evening, and a very typical chorus to hear at this stage of the evening. They are often very vocal as it begins to darken like this. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that. So from myself and VM, a big thank you for joining us this afternoon, and from Mark and Brian. So I hope you enjoyed your afternoon with us. I certainly did, and VM certainly did. So we hope you did as well. And I will be out in the morning. Mark will have the morning off, so I look forward to another adventure with all of you in the morning. Oh, hello, buffalo. Got one lone buffalo. Oh, not one lone buffalo bull. We've got a few on the right-hand side here. So, like I say, folks, a big thank you from myself and VM, and across to Mark for a quick goodbye from him.
I was going to say goodbye to you on our way home, but then I had a roadblock, and since I can't get home, might as well keep you here with me too, all our viewers. So if we just stick around for a minute or two. We're on our way home from Arethusa. We're on the access road to Arethusa, and the two Birmingham boys have awoken, and one of them has decided it's a lot cooler now out on the road, and I don't want to disturb him, so we might be here a little while. Maybe we'll just have to end up sleeping here and then just start here in the morning at 6 o'clock. Might be a long night. But I'm sure we'll get by. But with the boys not really doing much, I just thought it would be nice to just say goodbye to them. It's been an incredibly beautiful sky that I'm going to just show you quickly, if I can turn the vehicle just slightly. Scott has shown it to you from his angle. This is from over here on Arethusa. The purple mountains of the escarpment. And hope that we're going to have pretty much a good day tomorrow. We're going to have a day that's going to be hard to beat. Or rather, today was a day that's hard to beat. And I hope we can catch up with what's going on with Shadow. And, well, Scott will be out in the morning. I'll join him in the afternoon. And until then, thanks for being with us this afternoon. Thanks for all your contributions.